Good morning. Today is session 1 of CareerForce and More for Employers. This session is a chance for us to share CareerForce information for the CareerForce system, for CareerForceMN.com, MinnesotaWorks.net, our National Labor Exchange database, and information about all of our partners who share the work in serving job seekers and employers. Over the next 6 weeks, we will be going through all of these components starting this week on where are all the job seekers and how is CareerForce laid out? What is our system like? Next week, we delve into using these resources for relationship recruiting. Then we have an overview in session 3 on Minnesota Works. We talk more about leading in inclusion with our Minnesota's job seekers with disabilities and our newest Minnesotans, foreign-born Americans. We go on to retention and job quality and the importance of those in hiring and recruiting. And then we follow up with federal resources in session 6 about federal bonding, work opportunity tax credit, and second chance hiring. So you can find all of these links and you can share the WebEx registration links with your coworkers and colleagues in your field at CareerForceMN.com/CareerForce and More Employers. And I'll put that in the chat as we go along. I'm Liz Jennings, Employer Engagement Specialist for CareerForce. I work with all of our colleagues across the state in all 50 CareerForce locations. I have conversations with employers like yourself on a weekly basis on how they can implement these techniques. And then I host industry-focused webinars such as this one. You certainly can contact me at any time, or you can contact our CareerForce Information and Assistance line, and they will always get you in touch with the right person. So question number 1 today is, where are all the job seekers? And in the past, I've invited our labor market analysts for session 5 or 6, a little bit later on in the series. And, you know, we hear this question a lot when we have conversations with employers, you know, like, well, how do I find the employers? Where are the job seekers? Where are they? And so this time I decided to invite Tim O'Neill, one of our 7 DEED, Department of Employment and Economic Development labor market analysts, to kick us off and help us answer this question. I will put this information in the chat that DEED does have a labor market help desk, and you can contact them anytime, and Tim can, or any of his coworkers can answer your questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Tim O'Neill. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Liz. Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. As Liz was saying, I'm the 7-county Twin Cities regional labor market analyst. So I'm covering Anoka, Carver, Dakota, Hennepin, Ramsey, Scott, and Washington counties for all of your labor market needs. But we do have regional labor market analysts, as Liz was mentioning, throughout the state of Minnesota. And so I'll show you, I'm going to start sharing my screen here in just a moment, but you can reach out to us anytime, myself in the Metro or any of my colleagues, when you're looking for labor market data. And so labor market data includes all that information, whether it's industry trends, looking at just overall employment in the state of Minnesota and its regions. You can look at occupational wages. You can look at the cost of living in and around the state of Minnesota. You can look at graduate employment outcomes and educational data. And then you can look at projections for industries and occupations, labor force data, unemployment, employment trends. So there's just a lot of different types of information that we collect, that we disseminate, that we report out on, we have presentations on, and then we have over 20 labor market information tools that anyone and everyone can look up through our main DEED website at mn.gov/DEED, specifically mn.gov/DEED/data, where you can find all of this labor market information. And it can help answer those questions, such as where are the job seekers? So we could start to look at that overall unemployment rate and just what is it? What does it mean? How many unemployed Minnesotans are there? How does it break down to different geographies? Which I think is one of the really cool, powerful aspects of labor market data, where not only can we see what's happening in the state of Minnesota as the whole state, but we can zoom in on regional labor markets and see what's going on, for instance, in the 7-county metro area, or even the specific counties, and what's the unique story and situation in each of these counties and local labor markets. Because it is pretty eye-opening to see, for instance, how different the 7 counties within the metro are and unemployment situations within each of these counties within the metro area. And then, of course, how different the metro area is from Northeast Minnesota or Northwest Minnesota, Southeast Minnesota or Southwest Minnesota, and Central Minnesota. And so you can look up all of this data again at mn.gov/deed/data. But for the time being, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show some of this information that we have just visually. It's like a visual teaser that I'll give you here so you can see what's going on with all of this information. So we've already looked at the title, Where Are the Job Seekers? And you'll be getting more of this information here. I just wanted to tease before I get into the LMI data, some of that information that you'll be learning about in the sessions to come, all these resources that are available for businesses. And these are resources that utilize, and talk about labor market data as well, where we have workforce strategy consultants and Liz as the employment engagement specialist. And we have business development managers, and we have veterans reps and disability employment services and representatives looking at this labor market data, where we're specifically looking, for instance, at unemployment broken down by different demographics. So we can get this overall unemployment picture for the state of Minnesota. We can get it for different geographies, and then we can as well get it for different populations throughout the state of Minnesota. So these are just a sampling of those resources that you'll learn more about in the sessions to come through CareerForce and more, including on careerforcemn.com that utilize labor market data. And then, of course, from the other side of the coin, job seekers, career seekers, being able to utilize labor market data to connect with businesses, to connect with you. Again, though, all of this information that we collect, labor market information, is through mn.gov/deed/data, which you can see in the upper right here. We work very closely with the U.S. Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so you can also look up this data at the national level, and you can see what's the story of Minnesota, what's the context, how do we understand these trends, and how does it fit within the story and the context and the understanding of what's happening at the national level. So you can look up all this information, and it's just for this last bullet point here, making better, more informed, market responsive decisions. And in the case of a lot of employers throughout the state of Minnesota right now, it's how can we find those employees to fit and fill those job postings that we have today. So here's the team. One more introductory slide where you can reach out to some of the leadership and some of those research analysts that we have, as well as the regional labor market analysts, including my supervisor, Cameron Mocht. And so you can reach out to any of us anytime with the little questions, with the big questions, if you just want to have a conversation about what is happening in the state of Minnesota, how does it fit within the industry and your business that you're a part of, and how does it fit within your story and the endeavors and the populations and the Minnesotans that you're looking to hire. So here's where we're getting into the data then. So where are the job seekers? This is that labor market situation when we're looking at that unemployment rate. So that's that first statistic that you probably have seen. The media loves it, economists love it, the Labor Market Information Office, we love it. It's a leading economic indicator. You can track it over time, so you can just see how we are trending, for instance, with really big situations and conditions like the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, or the COVID-19 recession, or periods of expansion and recovery like we are seeing right now. And so you can see that across the state of Minnesota, we continue to have persistently low unemployment. You can see in the metro area and across central and southwest Minnesota, there's a lot of unemployment rates that are still in the 2s, even the high 1s. And so we are still very much in uncharted territory when it comes to really low unemployment. Overall, in the state of Minnesota, the unemployment rate is at 3.1%. It stayed steady in the month of September. And it's just, I think it's important. This is where we can really start to get at that question then of where are the unemployed persons, the job seekers. When we're looking at these unemployment rates, it's important to note that these represent unemployed Minnesotans that are actively looking for work. So that 3.1% at the state level, that represents approximately 98,000 Minnesotans that are actively looking for work. This is up from the really low, record low unemployment rates that we had in the spring months of 2022. We got down to 2.3%. And looking at my notes, I can't remember all the statistics, but that represented about 72,000 unemployed Minnesotans at that time. So we are seeing over the past year or so, and in recent months, slightly increasing unemployment rates across our state. And we're seeing the same for the United States too. So we're seeing more Minnesotans that are entering the labor force and actively looking for work. Of course, we're still very much down from the 11.1% during COVID-19, but we are still down from pre-COVID levels where we were at about 3.5% for unemployment. So again, persistently low unemployment. And then this is just a look at that, where we can see how we spiked for unemployment in the state of Minnesota being the dark blue here. You can see how Minnesotans' unemployment is historically lower than US unemployment. But you can see pretty much since 2021, we've had steady low unemployment in the state. The other side of the coin then, when you're looking at unemployment, is labor force size and the labor force participation rate. And this also lends itself to that question of where are the job seekers? So it's important to look into that labor force participation. And that's when you're looking at that population 16 years of age and older that are either unemployed, actively looking for work, or employed, currently in filled jobs. And so you can see in the state of Minnesota, very high labor force participation. We are historically higher than the US. Currently, we're at 68.5%. But one of the things that lends itself to tight labor market conditions where we have low unemployment and we're looking for job seekers is that we do see our labor force participation rate at 68.5% is lower than it was pre-COVID when we were 70% and just north of 70%. That doesn't sound like a big shift going from 70 to 68.5, but that's equivalent to thousands of Minnesotans that are no longer participating in the labor market. And this is where you can start to get at that question then more specifically, more qualitatively, when we're talking about populations that are older. We have an aging workforce where we have accelerating retirements throughout the state of Minnesota. We have a lot of complications with caregiving and with looking for those types of situations where if we have families, can we have work? Can we have both workers in the labor force that are filling these job posts that are out there? So caregiving can be a complication, it can be a barrier, age can, transportation can, housing can, education can. So we can just see that there's a lot of different factors that we have to look into, that we should look into when it comes to asking this question of where are the job seekers? And then this is just a look at some annual data. But essentially, when we're looking at that overall labor force size in the state of Minnesota, the encouraging thing is to see that we are up about 28,500 Minnesotans in our labor force from the low end of the COVID-19 recession in 2021 through today in 2023 in September, the latest available data. But when we're looking at pre-COVID levels to today, we're still down in Minnesota about 14,300 persons that are no longer participating in the labor force. So we have a slightly smaller labor force size, we have persistently low unemployment, and that's where we're starting to look into that question of where are the unemployed persons. When you're looking at this question, it naturally comes up then, how does it break down by demographics? And so this is slightly dusty data that we get from the American Community Survey. 2022 data will be coming out in December for these 5-year estimates. But you can see that there is pockets of challenges and employment barriers and populations that as an employer you can look into to fill those job postings that you have. So we can start to look into younger workers, we can start to look into race and ethnicity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We can start to look into veterans, those with reported disabilities, and those with less educational attainment levels to fill those postings that we have. So there's a lot of creative ways that we can start to look into what are the job postings that we have, who can fill these job postings, looking at the requirements, looking at those alternative ways of getting into the labor market for job seekers. And that's something that employers should be talking about as well. So my timer did go off, you might have heard that. So there's a lot of information. We could talk about this for a long time. But I did want to get quickly to survey. Last thing I'll kind of show here with looking at labor availability. We do see that it is improving over the year. We do see, for instance, like I mentioned before, unemployment increasing slightly over the past year, over the past few months here. But if you're looking on the right, you still see that some of those difficulties look into the skill sets of unemployed persons' educational attainment, still not having just enough applicants. So we still are in tight labor market conditions where there's about a 1-to-1 ratio, slightly less than that. And then looking into complications, not only like childcare and transportation and housing, but also wage expectations in the labor market today. So you can find all this information from the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. And you can see here that the most recent survey looking at higher interest rates and finance, and those are some of those challenges, but right up there at the top, continuing to be labor availability for open positions. So there were some things here that I kind of didn't get to, but when you're looking at these questions of where are the job seekers, with the labor market data, we can start to look into that very question of how many unemployed persons are in Minnesota, getting down to the geographies, getting down to other specific populations, and then reaching out to, and you'll learn more about this in the sessions to come, those resources within CareerForce that can look into the labor market data and help you come up with those creative solutions for finding job seekers.
Tim, when is the next time that LMI is holding some of their informational webinars on how to use the data?
Yeah, great question, Liz. So we're actually hosting a lot of those here in the fall. I'll be doing 3 sessions in November, and my colleagues will be doing these sessions throughout October, November, and December. So you are more than welcome to check those out. I'll put the link for that in the chat.
Great. Thank you very much for getting us started this morning.
Yep, thank you.
So, folks, we're going to pivot over to the question then, how does CareerForce work to connect you with these job seekers? And what I'm going to do is start by talking about the system. So CareerForce is part of the American Jobs Center Network that is funded by the U.S. Department of Labor Employment Training Administration. So every single state receives federal funding to administer these offices and to provide these services. Every single state calls it something different. So those of you who are recruiters for territories, regions of the United States, you know us by different names. But we are one network within Minnesota of public, private, and nonprofit partners, and we're committed to serving both job seekers and employers. I'm going to jump over now to our website. And so if you have a second screen, you certainly can drive yourself along through our website as I talk about all of the resources that help explain our system. When you go to careerforcemn.com, right at the very top, you'll see job search. We put this up on the top because we acknowledge that this is what we're all about. We're that talent matching. We're here to help job seekers, and we need to get your jobs out to our job seekers. So we put it top and center. I'm going to scroll all the way to the footer, Every single footer is exactly the same on every single page. And if you go down to the bottom where it says about CareerForce, it gives you our mission statement, which I just stated. And, our goal is to have Minnesota thrive economically by continuing to build its world-class workforce. So that's our mission. That's our focus on everything. On this page, you can see our annual report from last year. Our 2023 annual report will be coming in the coming weeks. And then we've got videos on how CareerForce works. But more importantly is the map of CareerForce locations. And we recognize that knowing where all of our CareerForce offices are is the most important part. So we have a couple of ways of getting to that. On this tableau, you can choose a city nearest you. You can click one of the dots in, that's close to your area, or you can scroll the chart there. But in addition, you'll find at the very bottom right-hand corner, find a CareerForce location. You can scroll up to the very top, find a CareerForce location, or you'll find a CareerForce location embedded in many of these pages. Why is this important? Because the staff nearest you, wherever your business is located, knows their job seekers. They know their industries. They know how their region needs you, the business, and how to best connect you. So really, they are the experts. Every single CareerForce location is operated perhaps a little bit differently. We are one unified network of public, private, and nonprofit entities which serve job seekers and employers. So some of the some of the CareerForce locations are operated by nonprofits, such as Workforce Development Inc. in Southeast Minnesota. Some are served by county services like Anoka County Jobs and Training Service Center. Some are operated by state of Minnesota offices, and some are collaborations of all of those entities under one roof. In addition, you'll often find adult basic education or vocational rehabilitation services staff under some of those roofs. So that's a little bit about all of our locations. Then if you we're still at the CareerForce MN About Us page. If you go to the right-hand side, click on Workforce Development Boards. These really are the drivers of all of the services. The U.S. Federal Department of Labor provides all states, again, funding, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funding, to operate the workforce development boards. So you can find contacts to all of them. You can find their locations and a little bit more description of how the workforce development boards are a partner in the CareerForce system. So under that CareerForce umbrella, there are the state workforce agencies such as DEED, Department of Employment and Economic Development. There are the state workforce development boards, and there is the governor's workforce development board, which is the third partner in providing all of these services. Our goal is for you as an employer to eventually get involved, get deeper into planning and serving your community through a workforce development board. And they are often looking for business members on those. So let us know if you have questions about that. Another component of the CareerForce system on the same About Us page is Meet Our Partners. And there are nonprofits, community-based organizations, county services that receive federal, state, county, or city funding to serve job seekers. So at that Meet Our Partners link on that same page, it leads you to a directory. And this is another part we'll talk more about next in session 2 when we talk about relationship recruiting. But you can find those organizations in your area. I'm going to type in 55811, which is Duluth. I click on apply, and it gives me a list of all of those agencies, those nonprofits, those boards that are partners in the workforce, the CareerForce system. And many of them have business services, employer services, job counselors that can get you connected with job seekers. The last directory, I'll say that I'm going to just point out on every single page, if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got this orange dot, and it says, I'm the CareerForce assistant. I'm here to help you. It doesn't lead to an actual person. It operates as a table of contents, but it welcomes you. You can click, I am an employer. It reiterates our mission statement and then gives you an option of what your question, what category is your question in. Perhaps today it is recruiting and retaining talent. Type that. It gives you a few more links to help you navigate our CareerForce webpage. So give that a try and see how that works. So in the coming weeks, then, we will talk a little bit more about all of these resources. But I do want to point out, as you can dig around this week, if you just go to For Employers, find the employees you need now, the first drop down. And on the right-hand side of most of the pages, there is the same directory as on the pull down. So you can navigate via either the right-hand side or the top. Finding the employees you need now are our top hits. These are the things that we say start here. So as I mentioned, finding the CareerForce locations so that they can really tailor your recruiting needs. List your open positions on the State Labor Exchange. This is minnesotaworks.net, part of the U.S. National Labor Exchange. Again, a federal system, and we encourage everyone to have an account or have your national jobs indexed there. Contact us for more information about that. And then add your hiring events to our statewide, no-cost public job fair calendar. This reaches thousands of users each month. And if you are having any drop-in hiring events, bring your resume in Thursday afternoon or whatever the case may be, you can post this using employers. Add your career fair to our calendar. Click that, fill in the form, review the information, press submit, and then we'll get it on the board. You can also use this to find CareerForce hiring events that are CareerForce sponsored and make connections with them. Or you can certainly connect with me and I'll connect you with them. So I'm going to put a couple more of these links in the chat. You can certainly contact them at any point. And then next week, when we will come back, we will talk about using all of these for recruiting success. You know, finding those job seekers, there are a lot of people who are unemployed or out of the labor force, maybe not actively receiving unemployment insurance, but maybe looking for a part-time job, a casual job or something. You know, people with disabilities, older people looking for a part-time job, people of color, new Americans, people who've been justice involved, teenagers, young people. So in the coming weeks, we'll talk more about that. Thank you very much for being on this session today. I'm going to get to my contact information. Sorry about that. Here we go. Contact me, Liz Jennings, liz.jennings@state.mn.us or CareerForce@state.mn.us anytime, and we will work to get your questions answered. Thanks a lot and see you next week.